Hey, for this week's video, I am not in a gorgeous background. I'm in lockdown in New Zealand, so I thought I would do a video about some of the weird things you might experience when you come to New Zealand. One of my introductions to New Zealand last year was I went to Whangarei and I was wandering around and I came up on this car. It was white and it had a white little attachment behind it. And on the front of the car was the sign. It said South Island white bait, like in this picture. So there I was across the street and I'm like, what the hell is white bait? So I figured it might be fish. So I wandered around from across the street towards the back of the vehicle and I didn't see anything fishy. I didn't see any like a door that might be open from that I couldn't see into from across the road. So I thought maybe I'll just cross the road and I'll go see what it is. And then it dawned on me, white bait. Shit, I think it's me. So I didn't cross the street. It turns out white bait is indeed a fish, and I've made many a Kiwi laugh with that story. Another thing you'll have to get used to in New Zealand are some of the expressions. Now, the first one that really got me was sweet as, because I'm sitting here waiting for what? Sweet as what? Isn't there a comparison or something? And it turns out it's just sweet as. They say it all the time. It kind of means cool, wonderful, great. And the cool thing is that basically you can stretch the rules and anything goes. I have fun with it. I'm like prolific as, obtuse as, sweet as, like anything, any word you want to put before the word as, it just works. So have fun with it. And if you're creative, when you come here, just like embellish that up and have some fun. Another interesting fact in New Zealand is it is not a litigious society. So if you're coming from America and you come over here and you're used to my God, everybody's making you sign a contract for you to buy anything or do anything. Well, over here, it's pretty loose, right? And laid back. And I can't tell you how many times I have done pet sitting and, I don't get asked all these insane questions. It's just assumed that I'm a good person and I'll do the right thing. And people have lent me their cars and don't even, I'm like, oh, is there a license and vehicle registration somewhere in case I'm pulled over by the cops? And they're like, no. And they're like, I'm like, well, what do I do if I'm pulled over by the cops? They're like, tell them it's my car and give me a call. One of the things that I love in New Zealand is there's no tipping. They just pay people well. So instead of you making up for their lack of salary, they just have a good salary and you get to enjoy whatever the service is that you're using, and you don't have to add on more money after you pay for that service. Like any country you might go to, the sense of humor here is really different than in America and probably most other places. And I don't think I quite understand it after a year and a half myself yet. I'm still working on that. I will say that I have heard it said that one of the reasons our jokes can fall flat is because sometimes American humor is just mean and Kiwis aren't mean. So just be aware that if you do come over here and you kind of are joking around and people are kind of not laughing and looking at you funny, it's probably because their sense of humor is so radically different than your own. Another big thing I learned is that there are 3 types of Kiwi. This is really important. So before I came to America and I ate those little green, hairy, outside fruits called kiwi, I just thought they were kiwi. Well, if you come to New Zealand and you talk about eating kiwi, then they may worry that you're either a carnivore or that you are trying to eat their prized national bird. So in fact, the fruit is called kiwi fruit, and there's a kiwi bird, and then there's a kiwi, and that's a person. And really cool is, so kiwi is a person from New Zealand, but a really interesting distinction because they have white people and Maori, and they're both Kiwi. They both consider themselves Kiwi of New Zealand. And so there's a couple of lovely words in Maori that you may hear while you're here that are important for you to know. One is pakeha, and the other one is Maori. So Pakeha is someone of white descent that lives in New Zealand, and Maori is someone that is of Maori descent that lives in New Zealand. So two really useful words that you will hear a lot when you are here in New Zealand. A really cool but crazy phenomenon here is that older people are in such amazingly great shape. I don't know what to make of it. Like, 80 and 90-year-olds doing like long cycling rides, running, like looking like they're in better shape than I am. Kind of jealous. I don't know what it is, but probably because people that live in New Zealand have so much nature and sport open to them, and they all start doing it at a young age, and they walk barefoot and they're walking all the time and really active. That's my guess. I don't know, but something just really impressive that you may notice is just how the older people in New Zealand are in just such amazing shape. Something else that took me by surprise here is that fame isn't the way it is in America. Like, people that are famous here just isn't a big deal. So you might see an actor or an actress and want to just be like fawn all over them, but that's just not really a thing here. So it's kind of nice. Like, here you can actually call people, talk to people, contact them, and you might actually get a response. If you see somebody in the street, they'll probably say hello to you. So it's just sort of a very nice quality that everyone in New Zealand is just really nice. Even if you're not famous, everybody bends over backwards. I mean, most people. I've just been astonished at how legitimately polite and helpful people are. I'll go into a store, and at checkout, the person will ask how my day was, not just to be polite, because I feel like in America, they're like, what's up? And if you say anything but all good or something like that, if you launch into your story, they don't really want to hear it. But here, if you're like, oh, well, I did this today, I did that today, they actually want to have a conversation with you. And it's really charming. And also, I find people go really out of their way to be helpful. Like, if you need something and somebody can get that for you, they will do that. If you are trying to, I've had a lot of mishaps trying to get like my driver's license converted and other things that were kind of complicated, and the people in the locations that I had to go to get this done were, when it wasn't a clear straight path to get what I wanted, they made phone calls, they made, they sat with me and strategized, spending like 10 or 20 minutes with me trying to help me out. Like, I never felt like anyone was like, yeah, sorry, can't help you, next. That's just not the way of people in New Zealand. So it's really endearing. Finally, I'm going to mention earthquakes. So earthquakes are sort of a regular thing in New Zealand, and I have been through a lot of them, I would say. I mean, apparently they happen all the time. Now, I've been through, most of the ones I've been through kind of woke me up. It seemed like somebody like headbutted my bed, and I was like, what? Is there an animal in here? And it turned out that actually literally the earth moved. And there's these websites so that when you go and find someone the next day, you're like, was there an earthquake? And they're like, you're crazy. Because, if you live here, people sleep through them all the time. Then there's an actual website that you can check and make sure that you're not crazy, and you'll see there really was actually an earthquake, and you're just more sensitive to the movement of the earth. And I did get into one big earthquake, and I was quite terrified and shooken up for a whole day. And I went for a walk the next day, and I'm talking like first time ever, like I realized the house was swaying. It wasn't me. It was pretty scary. And when I met people out the next day and was like, oh my God, you seem fine. Like, aren't you horrified? What do you do? Everyone's like, there's nothing really you can do. And they're kind of like, you might die, you might not. Like, they were just so laid back. Kiwis are super laid back, even in severe earthquakes. So that concludes this video. I hope you found it fun. And if you did, hit the like button. And if you're not already a subscriber, please join. I'd love to see you on the list to get my future videos. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.